I never imagined I'd be the kind of guy spilling his heart to strangers on the internet, but here we are. I need to get this story out. It's been gnawing at me like a dull ache that won't fade. Maybe sharing it will bring some peace, or at least warn someone else about the quiet ways a life can unravel. Let me start from the beginning, before the cracks became chasms. What would you do if the person you trusted most turned out to be a stranger? That's the question that haunts me now, but back then, I was blissfully ignorant. Almost 1 in 3 marriages faces betrayal, they say, and I was about to become a statistic without even seeing it coming. Hey everyone, my name's Alex, and I'm 38 years old. I work as a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm in Seattle. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and lets me tinker with blueprints late into the night. We've been married for 8 years, no kids yet, though we talked about it endlessly over lazy Sunday brunches. Our home is a cozy 2-story in a quiet suburb, with a backyard garden I tend to on weekends. I thought we had it good, stable, comfortable, the kind of life where you don't question the foundation because it feels solid underfoot. My wife, Sarah, is 36, a graphic designer who freelances from home most days. She's always been the vibrant one, outgoing, with a laugh that could light up a room and a way of making even mundane errands feel like adventures. Our dynamic was easy. I'd handle the practical stuff, like fixing the leaky faucet or planning our finances, and she'd bring the spark, surprising me with impromptu picnics or handwritten notes tucked into my lunch bag. I adored her for that, for how she made me feel alive amid the routine. That evening, the air in our living room carried the faint scent of rosemary from the roast chicken we just finished for dinner. The dim glow of the pendant light above the table cast long shadows across the wooden floor, and the distant hum of traffic outside blended with the soft tick of the wall clock. Sarah sat across from me, her fork idly pushing peas around her plate, her fingers, slender and always a bit cold, tapping lightly against the glass of water. I noticed how her eyes darted to her phone every few minutes, the screen lighting up her face with a blue hue that made her look distant, almost ethereal. She smiled when she caught me watching, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. There was a tightness in her jaw, a subtle clench that I chalked up to work stress. Inside, a small knot formed in my gut, nothing concrete, just a whisper of unease. She's been tired lately, I told myself, rationalizing the way she'd angle her body away when typing responses, her thumbs flying across the screen with an urgency that felt out of place. The fabric of her sweater brushed against the table as she shifted, and I reached out to squeeze her hand, feeling the cool metal of her wedding ring against my palm. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice steady, but my mind already spinning quiet what-ifs. Little did I know, that was the night everything started to shift, or maybe it had been shifting for longer, and I was just now feeling the tilt. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the half-drawn blinds in our bedroom, casting striped patterns across the rumpled sheets. The air smelled of fresh coffee brewing downstairs, a ritual Sarah usually handled, but today the pot sat cold and empty on the counter. I patted down in my socks, the cool hardwood creaking underfoot, and found her already dressed, scrolling through her phone at the kitchen island. Her hair, still damp from the shower, carried the faint citrus tang of her shampoo, and she looked up with a quick smile that faded as she tucked the device into her pocket. Our days had a rhythm. I'd kiss her goodbye before heading to the site, she'd wave from the window with her mug in hand. But lately, that rhythm felt off-key. She'd started mentioning more, client meetings, that ran late, her car pulling into the driveway well after dusk, the engine ticking as it cooled in the garage. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows, I waited up, the living room lit only by the flickering TV. She came in smelling of perfume mixed with something sharper, maybe cigarette smoke from a bar? Her coat was damp, and she hung it up without meeting my eyes, her movements deliberate, almost rehearsed. I tried not to overthink it. Work's been hectic for her, I reasoned, staring at the ceiling that night as she breathed evenly beside me. But the doubts crept in like the chill seeping through the drafty window frame. Why did she dim her phone screen when I walked by? Why the sudden interest in new outfits, silky blouses and heels she hadn't worn in years? Her laughter at incoming messages, muffled under her breath, echoed in the quiet house, making the silence between us feel heavier. Then there was my best friend, Mark. We'd been close since college, grabbing beers after work or watching games on Sundays. Lately, he'd been oddly evasive, canceling plans with vague excuses about stuff coming up. Sarah mentioned him casually once or twice, saying she'd run into him at a coffee shop, but her tone was too nonchalant, her fingers twisting the edge of a napkin as she spoke. That Thursday, as twilight turned the sky a bruised purple, Sarah announced she had a girls' night planned. She stood in front of the mirror, applying lipstick with a steady hand, her reflection showing a spark in her eyes I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. "Don't wait up," she said, pecking my cheek, her lips warm but brief. The door clicked shut behind her, and the house settled into an unnatural quiet, the fridge humming like a distant accusation. As I sat alone, the leather couch cool against my skin, a text from Mark popped up. "Hey man, busy tonight?" I stared at it, my thumb hovering, wondering why it felt like a lie. In this introductory phase, Alex's initial denial serves as a classic coping mechanism, rooted in attachment theory where individuals avoid confronting threats to relational security. His rationalizations, attributing Sarah's distance to work stress, highlight cognitive dissonance, where love blinds one to behavioral inconsistencies like guarded phone use or evasive body language. Subtle microexpressions, such as her tight jaw or fleeting smiles, foreshadow deeper betrayal, amplifying unease through sensory immersion. This sets up a foundation of trust erosion, showing how small, overlooked signs can snowball into emotional devastation, ultimately questioning the reliability of intuition versus evidence in marriages. The unease lingered like the faint musty scent of rain-soaked earth after a storm. Over the next few weeks, Sarah's girls' nights became more frequent, her explanations slipping out with a practiced ease that made my stomach twist. One night, as the wind howled outside, rattling the window panes, I lay awake listening to her soft typing from the bathroom, tap tap tap, followed by a suppressed giggle that cut through the darkness. When she emerged, her face flushed in the hallway light, she slid into bed without a word, her body turned away, the sheets pulling taut between us. I started noticing patterns. Her phone, once left carelessly on the counter, now vanished into her purse the moment I entered the room. During dinner, the clink of forks against plates filled the silence, broken only by her absent nods to my stories from work. "How was your day?" I'd ask, and she'd murmur, "Fine," her eyes flicking to the glowing screen under the table, her knee bouncing subtly with impatience. The air in the kitchen felt thicker, charged with unspoken questions, and I found myself hyper-aware of every gesture, the way she'd bite her lip when a notification buzzed, or how her posture stiffened if I leaned too close. Mark's absences gnawed at me too. We'd planned a fishing trip, but he bailed last minute, citing a work emergency. When I called, his voice was clipped, the background noise sounding like chatter from a crowded place, not an office. Sarah, meanwhile, had taken to primping more, new perfume that smelled of jasmine and vanilla, lingering in the bathroom like a secret. One afternoon, returning early from a site visit, I found her car gone, the house empty save for the faint echo of the dryer tumbling clothes. She returned hours later, cheeks rosy from the cold, claiming a quick errand. But her coat carried a whiff of cologne that wasn't mine, woody, familiar like Mark's. Doubt warred with denial in my mind. Am I paranoid? I wondered, staring at my reflection in the steamed mirror after a shower, water dripping down my face like unshed tears. The fear of being that jealous husband kept me silent, but the intuition grew, a low hum in my chest like the vibration of an approaching train. Moments of normalcy teased me, a shared laugh over a TV show, her hand brushing mine as we washed dishes, the soapy water warm and sudsy. But they felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. Then, one evening, as snow flurries danced outside the window, I saw it, a text preview on her lock screen. "Can't wait for tonight. Miss you already?" My heart stuttered, the room spinning slightly, the cold glass of the window pressing against my palm as I steadied myself. Alex's growing suspicion starkly contrasts his initial expectations of a stable marriage with the harsh reality of Sarah's behavioral shifts, illustrating how routine disruptions, like secretive phone habits or unexplained absences, erode relational foundations. This block captures the psychological toll of cognitive dissonance, where his self-doubt and rationalizations delay action, mirroring common patterns in infidelity narratives. Subtle cues, such as flushed faces or evasive tones, heighten tension, revealing character motivations. Sarah's possible thrill-seeking versus Alex's fear-driven denial. The red flag text marks a point of no return, shifting passive observation to impending confrontation, underscoring how ignored intuitions lead to deeper emotional fractures. That text burned into my memory, a spark igniting the dry tinder of my suspicions. I didn't confront her then. Instead, I retreated to the basement office, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead like angry bees, the air cool and slightly damp from the unfinished concrete walls. My hands trembled as I booted up my laptop, fingers hovering over the keys. Was this betrayal, snooping? The moral dilemma twisted in my gut, but the need for truth outweighed the guilt. I started small, checking our shared bank app for unusual charges. There they were, coffee shops I didn't recognize, a boutique hotel charge dismissed as a client lunch reimbursement, the dates aligning with her late nights. Red herrings popped up, easing the ache temporarily. One charge was for a spa day she mentioned offhand, another for gas on a route to her sister's. Relief washed over me like warm water, but it was fleeting, replaced by deeper doubt. Insomnia set in. I'd lie awake, the bedroom clock ticking relentlessly, Sarah's even breaths mocking my turmoil. Hyper-awareness consumed me, noting how she changed her phone password, the way notifications now came silently, vibrating against the nightstand like hidden whispers. I delved further, moral qualms fading. Using a spare key, I checked her car one afternoon while she was at a meeting. Under the seat, a crumpled receipt from a bar downtown, timestamped during a supposed yoga class. Then, the big one, logging into our shared cloud storage from my work computer, the screen's glow illuminating my tense face in the dim office. Deleted photos reappeared in the trash. Sarah laughing with Mark, arms linked at what looked like a party, his hand on her lower back, her head tilted toward him intimately. The images blurred as my eyes stung, the mouse clicking frantically to enlarge details, the timestamp, weeks ago, the background, a familiar venue from Mark's stories. Emotional swings battered me, anger boiling like steam from a kettle, then guilt for invading her privacy, crashing into sorrow that left me hollow. The house felt oppressive, every creak of the floorboards amplifying my paranoia. Shallow breaths in the quiet night, the cold air from the vent chilling my skin as I obsessed over timelines. Finally, the undeniable, a voice memo accidentally synced, her whisper to Mark. I can't keep lying to Alex. But being with you feels right. My world tilted, the phone slipping from my numb fingers onto the carpet with a soft thud. This investigation phase marks progressive stages from passive doubt to active pursuit, with each discovery, bank charges, receipts, photos, serving as escalating points of no return that shatter Alex's denial. Psychologically, it depicts the strain of moral conflict, where invasion of privacy becomes a necessary evil, leading to emotional fragmentation. Relief from red herrings gives way to intensified anger and guilt. Character motivations emerge. Alex's fear of loss drives his obsession, while Sarah's deletions suggest calculated deception. The voice memo climax solidifies certainty, highlighting how incremental evidence transforms intuition into irrefutable truth, paving the way for confrontation and personal reckoning. The voice memo looped in my head, a damning echo that drowned out everything else. I waited until evening, the kitchen bathed in the harsh overhead light, shadows stretching like accusations across the tiled floor. Sarah came home, her keys jingling as she dropped them on the counter, the scent of jasmine clinging to her like evidence. Hey, honey, she said, her voice light, but her eyes narrowed slightly when she saw my face, pale, set in a mask of calm fury. I didn't waste time. We need to talk, I said, my words hanging in the air like fog. She froze, her hand midway to the fridge, fingers curling slowly. About what? A pause, her breath catching, a micro twitch at the corner of her mouth. I played the memo on my phone, the tinny sound filling the room, her confession to Mark slicing through the silence. Her face drained of color, eyes widening in shock that morphed into deflection. That's not what it sounds like, she stammered, stepping back, her back hitting the counter with a dull thump. It's just friendly talk. You're overreacting. Anger surged, but I held it, my voice steady. Friendly? With my best friend? The photos, the texts, the hotel. How long, Sarah? Pauses stretched, broken by her shallow breaths, tears welling but not falling. A few months, she admitted finally, her voice breaking, shifting blame. You were always working. Mark listened. Gaslighting followed. You're imagining things. We can fix this. The twist hit like a punch. It wasn't just physical. She loved him, had for longer than I knew. He's been there for me, she whispered, twisting her ring. Shock numbed me, turning to detachment as the hum of the fridge underscored the tension. Body language screamed. Her arms crossed defensively, my fists clenched at my sides. Dialogue fractured. How could you? I asked. I thought we were. She sobbed. I'm sorry. But it rang hollow. The confrontation peaked in emotional silence, her tears soaking the floor as I walked away, the door to the guest room clicking shut behind me, the stillness after the storm, irreversible. The climax unleashes a torrent of emotions, shock, anger, sorrow, driving Alex's restrained confrontation, where actions like playing the memo force Sarah's denial to crumble into confession. Her deflection and blame-shifting reveal narcissistic traits, contrasting Alex's clarity amid betrayal. The double twist of emotional attachment to Mark amplifies devastation, showing how infidelity intertwines with friendship treason. Sensory details heighten psychological tension, marking the shift from confusion to detachment, where emotional peaks lead to decisive withdrawal, illustrating betrayal's irreversible impact on trust and self-worth. The days after blurred into a haze of cold interactions, the house echoing with avoidance. Sarah moved to the couch, her presence a ghost in the hallways, her eyes red-rimmed from silent cries. We spoke in clipped sentences about logistics, dividing accounts, who gets the dog, the air thick with unspoken grief. I consulted a lawyer in a sterile office, the fluorescent lights buzzing, papers rustling as I signed initial separation forms. Friends reacted with shock. Mark vanished from my life, his betrayal a double wound that stung deeper than expected. Family called, voices laced with sympathy, but I kept details sparse, focusing on moving forward. Sarah's behavior shifted, pleas for forgiveness morphed into resigned acceptance, her attempts at repair, cooked meals left untouched, fading as she packed bags. I messed up, she admitted one rainy afternoon, rain streaking the windows like tears. But my grief had hardened into clarity. I removed my ring, the metal cool against my skin, placing it on the dresser with finality. Empowerment came gradually. I established boundaries, no contact beyond necessities, sleeping in the master bed alone, the sheets crisp and unshared. Symbolic acts marked my independence, joining a gym, the clang of weights drowning doubts, hiking trails where fresh pine air cleared my mind, coffee alone at dawn, steam rising in the quiet kitchen, symbolizing self-sufficiency. Now, months later, I'm in a small apartment downtown, the city lights twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. Mornings ring routine, brewing strong coffee, the bitter aroma grounding me. Evenings, new hobbies like woodworking, sawdust textures under my fingers evoking creation from ruin. Social life bloomed, reconnecting with old friends, even tentative dates, laughter echoing in bars where cologne no longer triggers memories. Therapy helped unpack it. Understanding her motivations didn't excuse them, but it freed me from blame. I feel empowered, life mine again, walks in crisp autumn air, leaves crunching underfoot, a sense of freedom in solitude. Nearly 30% of marriages face situations like this, and I was one of them. It taught me vigilance, self-respect, and that healing comes from within. If you're reading this, know you're not alone. Betrayal breaks, but resilience rebuilds. Summarizing the entire narrative arc, this story traces Alex's journey from blissful ignorance through suspicion, investigation, confrontation, and fallout to empowered resolution, embodying the psychological realism of Betrayal's toll. The Double Betrayal by Sarah and Mark amplifies themes of trust erosion, where denial and rationalization delay but can't prevent truth's emergence. Character growth shines in Alex's transformation, from passive doubt to assertive boundaries, highlighting coping strategies like therapy and independence. Lessons on ignoring subtle signs, phone secrecy, behavioral shifts, lead to devastation, but forgiveness isn't mandatory. Instead, personal empowerment and emotional closure prevail, offering catharsis and hope amid relational ruins.